Welcome to FPB's Meet the Candidates. This Cable 10 series allows you, the voter, the viewer, to get a closer look at our local candidates and their views on the issues that are important to us. This is all leading up to the general election, which is on Tuesday, November 6th. Today's guest is Lynn Bowers, and she is a candidate for City Commission. Thanks for coming, Lynn.
Thank you for having me.
We're excited to hear from you. I thought maybe we would just, in case people don't know who you are, although you've been on the City Commission, but it's a good opportunity to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you've chosen to run once again.
Okay, well, there are a lot of new people in Frankfort. This is my 9th race. This is my 8th race for City Commission, so I've served 7 terms on the City Commission. I did run for mayor at one point and lost to Gibby Graham, but nevertheless, this is my 9th run. And in the spring, as I campaigned, I met many, many new people from different parts of the country and some people that have come to us internationally. So there are new people in Frankfort, so I will introduce myself a little bit. I'm a native from Frankfort, native of Frankfort, lived here most of my life. I have lived in Birmingham, Alabama, Atlanta, Georgia, little tourist community in North Carolina, and Lexington, Kentucky. So I have lived in different places, and I think I have a good perspective on what we have here in Frankfort and what Frankfort's all about. I am a professor by occupation, with my last tenure being 11 years at Kentucky State University as professor of psychology. Before that, I taught at Lindsey Wilson in a graduate counseling program, taught a year at Western Carolina in psychology. That's one branch of my career. The other branch has been in disability evaluation, both for Social Security and for disability for the courts, doing guardianship evaluations. So 14 years of that time has been spent serving as city commissioner of the city of Frankfort. I am the daughter of Dr. Herman Bowers, who just passed away, so I should say the late Dr. Herman Bowers, and Shirley Bowers. And what else to tell you about me?
Why have you chosen to run again? And you've served a long time.
I find that it's true what my father told me, that I tend to like whatever I do. And the longer I do it, the more I like doing it. So I have really enjoyed my service on the City Commission. And when I lost the mayor's race 3 terms back, I wasn't sure I would run again. I thought I'll find something new to do. But citizens started encouraging me to run again 4 years after I lost the mayor's race, and I thought, well, okay, I will, and got back on. And I've enjoyed serving as much the second time around as the first time around. So 3 terms the second time, and I want to continue to serve.
Okay. Well, for people who may not be familiar with, what are the responsibilities of a city commissioner?
Well, the City Commission is the policy-making board of the city. We have a city manager form of government. So our city manager and professional staff carry out the day-to-day operations of the city from an administrative perspective. We, the board, set policy. So the City Commission is basically the 3 branches of government rolled into one. It's your executive, judicial, and legislative body. Rolled into a 5 people have that responsibility. So it is a very, I think, serious, important job that we do, and I take it very seriously.
That's good. As an incumbent, you have the advantage of experience on the commission and also a record. Share with us some of your achievements in your tenure.
Wow, in 14 years that we have done so much, and sometimes it's difficult to remember all the things you've done or failed to do, the things you've done that have pleased people and maybe not so much, but there's just been a lot of things. I'm not really sure where to start, but I guess I'll start with now and kind of go backwards. Our aquatic center that's been around just a couple of years was rated #1 in the state, and our commission put that there with all the feedback from the public, and the public really lobbying to get that done. So I say that citizens actually make those things happen because we respond to the citizens. Hopefully that's what we're doing. And so we did on that. So we have a wonderful aquatic center, #1 in the state. I think we have the best park system in the state for a city our size. We obtained Cove Spring Park. We have done a lot on Fort Hill. We now have a park on Fort Hill that was virtually, people in the city didn't know about that when I was growing up. We have the Grand Theater. We did that during one of my terms. The Public Safety Building in one of my terms. Just there are a lot of things that we've done. I can't recall all of them, but I will tell you that during the past over a year since we have our new city manager, the city has actually done a whole lot towards the goal of what my platform has always been, and that is to increase citizen engagement. And I see our city manager really working very hard to do that, and I see our citizens really involved to a much greater extent than they were prior to her coming here. So I think that our city manager is to be given credit for that, but also the city commission in supporting that and encouraging that. So that's really important to me, and that's just a recent development. So
Great.
there are other things, but right now if I enumerate them,
Well, another
they would
thing
go backwards.
our city manager did was facilitate our ability to get an $8 million grant.
Yes.
In order to do some construction, do some revitalization of the 2nd Street corridor.
Yes.
How do you envision the city commission playing a role in that and getting that implemented?
Well, we're going to get it implemented, and I'm sure there will be steps along the way where input will be taken from us, but as to specifically how that will occur, or specifically what those contributions will be in terms of feedback, input, I can't really tell you right now, but we'll be heavily involved with that. Staff will be involved with that. Ms. Steinhauser is heavily involved with that. So
what is the goal of that project?
the goal is to revitalize that area, make that area more accessible to the handicapped, the elderly, just make it an area that works better for the people that use it and is more attractive and more inviting into that area.
Okay. Well, another area of redevelopment that we have going on is our downtown redevelopment. What was the Capitol Plaza? Have you seen the proposed plan that City Visions did? Is that something you support?
I have. My understanding is that we're looking at creating housing there, and there were ideas about a hotel with a meeting center. A lot of ideas were put out, but I think the focus has been largely on creating a greater housing stock and a more varied housing stock there. And I am still thinking about that.
Okay.
I'm pretty open about what's going to happen down there. I know a lot of people want another convention center, and I am one of those people. I think it's really sad not to have a place where our high schools can graduate here within our own community. I think that we talk about the market would support housing, and that's what the research tells us. But I think we also need to be looking at where can we put a convention center, because I think to be without one is going to be a problem at some point. Maybe it's not recognized now by everyone, but I think at some point our citizens will lobby us to a great extent, forcing that issue. So I think we need to start thinking about that right now. We are thinking about that right now, but we need to take that kind of input seriously right now.
The project's going to cost some money. So what type of funding mechanism would you support to get some work done?
For a convention center, I would entertain, heavily consider any ideas that people have for that, whether it be grants, partnerships.
Are you supportive of a public-private partnership?
Yes.
Okay. So if the downtown redevelopment is successful down the road and it starts to generate some revenue, as they're hoping will be the case with the private housing at the should local government use the money that is generated to improve the quality of the services and keep taxes the same, or lower taxes and keep services the same, hypothetically?
So you're giving me an either
or something else altogether.
So you're asking, should we lower taxes and keep services at status?
Lower taxes, keep services at status, or keep taxes the same as they are and improve services.
Oh, well, I think we can always improve.
Okay.
And that doesn't necessarily mean spending more money. It means thinking maybe out of the box,
Yeah.
and thinking about how can we become more efficient and do more with services without raising taxes. You know, we just did a tax increase last night. It's perceived as an increase. Actually, if you look at the past decade, it's overall a decrease because twice in a row we lowered that tax. It was at 21 point something, then it went to 19 point something, then 18.9, and it's bounced around a little bit where we lowered and raised. So we raised it just almost 1 cent on $100 valuation of property. But if you look over the past terms, that's actually, it comes out still lower than what it has been in the past. So I think that what we try to do is we should try not to raise taxes, and if we think we have a little bit more than we need, I think it might be smart to hold on to that without taking a dip, without lowering, so that people are not having to adjust to differences all the time, because when you take it up, that's an adjustment that has to be made, even though that adjustment overall is still lower than what the highest rate has been. So that's a long roundabout way of answering the question. Become more efficient, use any excess money to increase services, but also to put that money away for things that could happen down the road. We have bond debt that's that's going to be paid off in a while, but it's always better to have a little reserve. And our city has always had, since I've been on the commission, a pretty decent reserve. I'll say nice reserve. And I credit our finance directors, Steve Dawson and Jimmy Rogers for that. Yeah, done a really good job and had supportive commissions, and I think that's real important. So save for a rainy day, increase efficiency, try not to raise taxes, and you can do that if you think smartly.
Well, in addition to the city commission, community-wide, the taxes have gone up. The circuit court raised their taxes. Both school districts had to raise taxes, and part of the reason for that is the increased contribution they're having to make to the pensions.
Yes.
So that's going to continue to be there.
That's going to be for the next 5 years. We're going to have about a 12% increase to the cost of the city for that pension. So about $500,000 a year. So we've got to pay for that.
Yeah.
So
what can we as a community do to generate more revenue in order to keep those increases to a minimum?
Specifically, we'll look at specifics as they come to us.
Okay.
But I think with this increase that we've done, we're helping that. And so Mr. Dawson, our finance director, does a really good job of projecting out how can we meet the financial responsibility that we're going to have. So I tend to look to my professionals on the staff for those recommendations to come to me now. I will take recommendations from citizens as well. But I think that he's doing a really good job with helping us meet the responsibility that we're going to have to meet, because he's projecting it out. He's seeing where we're going. And so we do what's necessary. I heard somebody told me the other night while we had gone into closed session that the comment was made that those of us on the commission can increase that by almost 1 cent on $100 valuation, which comes to about $7.50 on average for the homeowner, the average cost of the home. But the comment was made that we have plenty of money, so we don't mind that increase. Well, no, not all of us have plenty of money. I'm just going to put it out there. Yeah. I sometimes think that way myself when I see elected officials raising taxes, but I left my full-time job 2 years ago and have spent time caring for my elderly father who just passed away. So I am not in a boat of I have plenty of money to be increasing taxes so it doesn't hurt me. So I think it's important for people to realize, because I've made the mistake as well of thinking people in office passing those tax increases are just well off, and some of us are not financially so well off. So I think it's hard for us to do that because a lot of us are in the boat with a lot of our citizens. We're trying to find ways to pay our bills as well, and I think that's important for even myself to remember. So
Well, another organization that sometimes has trouble paying their bills or finding ways to pay their bills is the Frankfort Independent School System. They rely on property taxes for the revenue. And, everyone knows here in town that it's a problem because of state property taxes. The city government, federal government, and state government all have property in their district that don't collect taxes. Do you have any ideas, or how do you envision what can the city commission do to work with the city school district? Maybe reach out to the state to figure out some kind of compromise or some kind of solution to that.
Well, we can work with lobbying the state. We can work with them in any way that I think we should be working with them. You know, we, through KCDC, funneled some money a couple of years, I think it's been about 2 years ago, to the city school system. I voted no because I, quite frankly, thought it was illegal, and looking at the statute, and still think it was not the most above board thing to do. But I do support working with the state and the school systems in any way we can to alleviate their financial problems, if there's a way to do that.
Okay.
And once again, I am welcoming all sorts of ideas from whoever has them, whether it's professional staff, professionals in the community, citizens who just have bright ideas. We have a lot of professional people in our city, and experts in our city, and people that might not consider themselves to be expert, but who have great ideas that if we just listen to those, and we listen to several people in conjunction, their ideas, that we can come up with really good ways to address problems.
Right.
So I think it's real important to listen to those ideas.
In the primary, candidates commented on the stagnant population growth here in Frankfort, and that Frankfort needs a positive change to spur growth. Do you agree with that? And what do you envision that change to look like?
I have heard those kind of comments since the day I started running for office in 2000. And, you know, to be quite frank, it sort of reminds me of, and I don't want to put that attitude or those thoughts down, but it's kind of like, well, I read in a clipping from the City Visions that we need to get an identity. Well, that's typically what we think of with an adolescent in development, to get an identity, and that's kind of how those comments come across to me. I'm going to tell you, I've lived here my whole life, that we need an identity. It really sounds adolescent to me, because I believe that Frankfort is a wonderful place, and I have lived in other places, the large cities, the small tourist community, Lexington, and I know that this is the place that I live because I choose to. I think we have the perfect size city. I think we have a wonderful population of people. I have friends that come here from all over the country, and I just had a friend here for a week from Alabama who says, Lynn, you never want to leave here. This is a beautiful place. And the comments about the people here are wonderful. The comments about our downtown are wonderful. The comments about the beauty, the environmental beauty here. So I happen to disagree with that attitude. I think that wherever you are, if you have a good attitude about yourself, you're going to have a better attitude about where you live. So I think when we start looking at our community as if it needs to change, I think we really need to start looking at ourselves, because it's sort of, the attitude towards self sort of transfers onto the environment. And I think so we need to appreciate what we have. And we have a lot here. And over the years, I've just, even people that I don't know that don't come to visit me, but that I run into in the downtown or run into in our city, will comment that, oh, this would be a great place to live. And they're from different places, big cities, small towns. So I think sometimes you appreciate what's on the other side of the fence a little more than you appreciate what's in your own backyard. So I think we need to adjust our attitude a bit.
Okay.
So it's not a popular statement to make, but I firmly believe that. I think that we can do better, and we can always improve. Stagnant is not what I would call Frankfort. In fact, I would say Frankfort is the very opposite of stagnant. So,
Okay. Well,
let me just say,
Yeah.
we're a very diverse city in a lot of ways, and diversity does not contribute to stagnation. It contributes to something else. So,
okay. Part of growing is attracting young people to our community. Do you have any ideas of what Frankfort can do to attract more young people?
well, once again, I'm going to say that I don't necessarily agree with that
Okay.
statement. If we attract all ages of people. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
The population is aging and people are living longer. So quality of life is extended into older age now. So if we're just attracting all ages, I'm happy with that. You know, we talk about discrimination, race discrimination, age discrimination, all sorts of discrimination. So when you make a statement like that, we need to attract young people. In my mind, that's a bit of discrimination. So I think what we need to be saying is we want to attract all ages. And we need to offer things that attract all ages. And we need to think about what the population's going to look like down the road. Well, we're going to be older. The whole population's going to be older.
Yeah.
So I think to ignore the effort to attract older people is a mistake, because if that's where things are going, we need to be thinking about that as well as young people. And don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with younger people. They make me feel younger. I don't consider myself young, but I tend to think we want a very mixed population. We want some of all ages here. So we need to be thinking about attracting all ages with the services and things that we provide.
Okay. I'm going to switch gears just a
Sure.
little bit, talk about the plant board for a minute.
Okay.
While it would take a change in legislation, we know this, do you think that the county judge and fiscal court should have the ability to nominate and appoint some members to the Frankfurt Plant Board?
I think just a few months ago, we talked about that in a commission meeting, and I believe that we decided that we should allow someone from the county to be on our board. But you're asking, should the fiscal court have the nominating,
have the
or
ability
the appointing?
to appoint, one or two members, or a percentage of members, depending on
My initial
service.
thought is I don't have a problem with that. That doesn't mean that if it came to a vote a year down the road, other factors might not change my mind. But I believe that night when we discussed it in a meeting, I believe I stated that at this point I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Okay.
So,
Do you think industry should have a seat on the Frankfurt Plant Board?
we got a 5-member board, right? So,
Or it could be more if there was a legislation change.
there could be a legislation change. I think about the different facets that would comprise a really perfect board, and they're industry, technology, accounting, management, just your average citizen that we don't identify with any of those. They could be come from any sort of expert background. So if you really think about that, I think that would be nice. But I think with a 5-member board, it's hard to include all of the components that you would like to have. So you might want to think about legislation change to create a larger board.
My next question is about business and industry itself.
Okay.
How do you think the City Commission can incentivize and attract new businesses and industry to our area?
That's also a question.
I think we're doing great.
Yeah, I want to say I try to answer that since 2000.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be an answer that's not really your standard answer or your popular answer.
I can move on.
But no, I think it's kind of important to answer.
Okay.
I think sometimes, and I tend to, because I come from a psychology background, I think sometimes when we look at individuals, the harder somebody tries to be attractive, the less attractive the person is. Yeah. Sometimes I think the harder you try to pull people into your city, the less attractive your city becomes. I think we need to be who we are as individuals, and I think we need to be who we are as a city. And when we really claim who we are, then I think that's attractive in and of itself. And I think we worry about that a lot when other people come here. If we are really proud of who we are and project that, I think that itself can attract. That might be a simplistic, sort of positive, overly positive look at things, but I do believe that. I think we worry a little bit more than we appreciate.
Okay. Well, our local economic development group tells us that the availability of skilled labor is a barrier in recruiting new jobs to our community. What can local government do to help grow our workforce in both size and skill?
Okay, I'm going to give another simplistic answer.
Okay.
Just be a place where people want to come and live, so that those skilled workers want to come here. A varied population, varied services here, just to attract. But I think we have that. So I don't really, I guess, have the perfect answer for you.
Yeah.
But we need to explore it more.
Okay.
And I'll be listening to people on ideas about that. So.
Yeah, sure. Do you think the City Commission as a public government office is adequately transparent?
Do I think the City Commission is adequately transparent? Well, transparency was a big issue when I first ran for office, and at that time I would have said no. And I don't know if it's that I've been there a while, or I think it's becoming more transparent. But I think we can always do better, but I believe that we try to be very transparent.
Mm-hmm.
I know I do. I can't point to something right now where I think there's been a lack of transparency. So I would have to say, I think so.
Okay.
That's not to say that we can't strive to be more so.
Always, yeah.
And I'll just tell you, I look at the website, what a good job staff's done with that. There's so much more on the website for all of us to go in and see what's going on than there used to be. So I think we're still striving to reach a higher standard there, and I think we're doing a good job.
Okay.
If anybody's got ideas about how we can do better, I'd love to hear it, and I'd love to take that
Great.
down for discussion. But I think we try really hard.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you coming today.
Okay.
I'm going to give you the opportunity to look into that camera. Tell people
Okay.
why you're the best person for City Commission.
Okay.
Maybe if there's specific things that you want to try to get done in this term, you can tell them and then ask for their vote. on
Oh, okay. Well, I'm running again because I really enjoy serving. I will tell you that I know so many of you in the community. I know so many of your problems, so many of the issues that face you, because how many times I've walked the streets. I guess I've probably gone door to door now, if I count primary and in general, probably 12, 13 times. So I'm very familiar with issues. I'm very familiar with our city. I was born here, grew up here. I really want to serve. I think that you, the citizens, always come first when I'm serving. And I'm just going to ask you to vote for me, Lynn Bowers, on Election Day for City Commission. I am Win with Lynn. And let me just say, I'm 2 weeks late getting started. I've had people ask me, are you running? I am running. Today I'm officially starting my campaign. It is the 23rd, 24th, 25th of September. I'm starting today. So yes, I'll be doing yard signs coming to your door. I am running. So please vote Lynn Bowers and win again with Lynn.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I know our viewers appreciate hearing directly from our candidates, so thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. I want to remind our viewers to go vote on on November 6th. And when you're done voting, go home, tune in to Channel 10, check out our live election coverage coming at you directly from the county clerk's office. And it's election time, people, so it's time to get informed, voice your choice, and that's all for this edition of Meet the Candidates. We'll see you next time.